beware, they be monsters out there.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Zach, what's going on?
What you doing?
Just recording the outro.
Oh, I bet it's going to sound awesome. I mean, you make everything sound so magical. Hey, did you do something with your hair? It looks... Anyways, listen. Ben is still out, and I was hoping maybe you might be able to hop in.
Do I get a company car?
Yep.
Let's do this.
All right, so
Zach,
David Universe, you're the bookend. You're the voice, the oxygen of this show. But now we have you here. We have you here. I have you here. The listeners have you here for a full episode.
For a full episode. I am the oxygen, which means we are either oxygen deprived or just full of hot air. We'll find out which one it is.
We'll let the listeners decide. So when we talked about doing this, because again, Ben is wandering the planet, searching for the other half of his amulet, and it seemed like the obvious choice would be to talk about movie monsters with you. The reason being, do you want to talk a little bit, just at the top here, do you want to talk a little bit about your bona fides? Why this would be an obvious choice to talk about with you?
Oh, yeah. For those that don't know, I run an artist collective called Midnite Romero Society, and we are all about movies, monster movies, Tukatsu movies, you name it, we love it. We also host the Monster Market podcast, as well as a bunch of other great podcasts, such as Mystery Movie Madness and so on. So we love movies. So when it comes to joining the forces together, if you think of the Predator handshake, which is Midnight Romero Society is Schwarzenegger, and Monster Market is Carl Weathers.
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
Yes. So Monster Market is Dylan. And then what is Schwarzenegger's name? God, I'm so...
Dutch
and Dylan.
So just imagine the biggest, oiliest, meatiest man arms you can locking together.
That is this episode. Superpowers collide, listeners.
All right, so I say let's just fire away.
Yeah.
Now, again, Ben has the coin. I do not have access to the coin, but I have a 20-sided die. So we'll do this. Do you want 1 through 10, or do you want 11 through 20?
I'll do 11 through 20.
14.
Oh, man.
Not a bad hit. Not a bad hit.
That's pretty good.
As our guest, and because you won the throw, you get to choose who's going to go first.
Dylan goes first, so that'll be you, my friend. Zachary Banks, you are up.
All right. So we're talking about Famous Monsters of Filmland, and for my first one, you've heard urban legends and actually real legends, real stories too, about mole people who live underground, people who live in the abandoned subways and the sewers, particularly in New York City.
Oh boy.
Right? You've heard these stories.
Oh yes.
You know where I'm going with this?
I think so. Do you want me to spoil it?
Well, if you want to give a guess.
I'm trying to think of all the weird meanings behind the acronym, but I'll just say, is it CHUD?
It is.
Oh, man.
I'm starting off with CHUD. So CHUD was a movie from 1984. If you don't know, do you remember what... So CHUD, like you said, CHUD is an acronym. Do you remember what CHUD stands for? And I'll give you a hint. It's a bit of a trick question because there are actually 2.
It's like cannibal, something underground dweller is one of them. At least I think that's what the government G-Man says in the film, but the other one passes my mind. So
the official government
cannibalistic
acronym.
Humanoid underground dweller. There we go.
Yes, that is the layman term. is the cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller. The secret government name is actually the Contamination Hazard Urban Disposal. And this will give you a little bit of a clue as to the nature of the Chud. In the movie, people throughout the city are disappearing, particularly the homeless population. And the story is mainly centers around a cop and a I don't know what you would call him, a manager of the, I don't know. He runs a homeless shelter.
Yeah, he runs like the soup kitchen.
Right.
And is played by, drumroll please,
Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern from Home Alone. I think it's safe to say his most popular cameo.
Definitely
appearance.
His most recognizable.
Most recognizable, definitely.
Daniel Stern's other probably most famous role, and something that I didn't know until I was well into adulthood, is he's the voice of Kevin Arnold from The Wonder Years.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I did not realize that.
So the tall crook from Home Alone and this cop, they start working together to find out sort of what's happening with these missing people, and they end up going underground, and they encounter these just ghoulish. I mean, whatever you're imagining when you hear cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller is pretty much what the Chuds look like. And then through a series of gruesome, scary monster sewer stuff, sure enough, they uncover that that there was a cover-up, a plot where they wanted to move some radioactive waste through the city, but they knew that they couldn't do that because of the population. So they did it secretly, and the radioactive waste got into the tunnels and the sewers. And so it's not the ghouls that are eating the transient population. It's actually, they have mutated into the Chud. There is a sequel, but I have not seen it.
Bud of Chud.
Yes.
It is not, well, I don't know. I don't want to shit on anyone's tastes, but it's weird. Okay, this is weird. Like horror movies, the horror movie fandom is weird because I like Chud over Bud of Chud. But then Bud of Chud has like its Stern fans that think it's an improved sequel. Now, it's up for debate. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but
you're not going to yuck anyone's Chud.
I'm not going to yuck anyone's Chud, but I will bud and say that Chud number one is number one in my heart. I also don't think it's as terrible as people make it out to be. Like look, not to go on like a tangent about hate for this movie, but people really don't like this movie, and I always find that weird because I think it's kind of a fun romp.
I agree, and like you'll read that like, oh, terrible reviews and all that kind of stuff, but it's got a cult following. I mean, the thing is like, I don't know what one would expect from a movie like this. I mean, it's called Chud, for Christ's sake. It's called Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers. Like, what you're getting into.
Right.
It's like ordering spaghetti and meatballs and saying like, well, this was terrible because I don't like pasta. So that's Chud. Chud is the spaghetti and meatballs of this horrible metaphor analogy here. If you like weird New York mutant movies with Daniel Stern, then you may enjoy Chud also.
And it's really cool because it's of those old school New York movies where New York is grimy. Like we're talking about 42nd Street still exists and has all the porn theaters. Right up there.
Disney is not in Times Square.
No, Disney does not own Times Square at this moment in time. It's up there with like Will Lustig's Maniac. I guess not really Fulci's New York Ripper, because the thing about the Italians in New York is they really make it quieter than New York actually is. Like if you watch like Frankenhenlotter's Brain Damage, for example, or even basket case, right? Like it is noisy. There's nothing but car honkings. But then you watch like the Italians' idea of what New York is, and you'll hear crickets. They're lying in Central Park at night, and you're like, "What? What are you talking about, guys? What is this?" Which was the advice I always get from my mother-in-law when I'm about to, when me and my partner are going to go to New York. She's like, "Don't take the subways." And I was like,
watch out for chuds.
What's out for chuds? Hide your wallets. I had a hard time choosing my monsters. So there might be points where I just change my mind along the way. But of all of the options that I presented myself, this was one that I absolutely wanted to talk about. And less to do with like the monster, though I love it, and more to do about its creator and how they were wiped from history, essentially thanks to the fandom and a recent book that came out. They have been brought out of the dark and have been given the credit that they're due.
Out of the blackness, would you say? Out of the
murky lagoons?
Murky, dark, black lagoon, would you say?
Very apropos, Zach, because I'm talking about the Gill Man from Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. I love this creature design. It is definitely my favorite. As I sit talking with you, I have a giant mask of the creature on a bust on my bookshelf and a few action figures of him. Or I guess it's 1950, so of course they gender it a he, but really it's just a weird amphibian that we have no idea what the gender is.
They do have very luscious lady lips.
Yes, they do. Such luscious lips that I
very
love.
Kissable.
Very kissable, and it puckers up like with every step. But regardless, a cool design created by Millicent Patrick, which...
Who?
Exactly. Which most people might not. She's not a household name, though she deserves to be. And the reason that's not is a very interesting story. And I will point anyone to this amazing book called The Lady from the Black Lagoon by Mallory O'Mara. It came out a few years ago, and it's essentially a case study, a history that tells Millicent's story. Essentially, like her upbringing, she's O'Mara starts with what her father met her mother and that early life when she was born, the circumstances therein, and then essentially, her career where she started. She started at Walt Disney Productions. They had an all-female ink and paint department, and then she ended up being promoted to animations and effects and being like one of the first female animators at Disney. She also was a very abundant. She did a lot of modeling along the side as well. Very fashionable. And then she eventually found her way to Universal Studios and their makeup department. I'm actually getting a little ahead of myself because if we go back to like Disney and what she did there, she did a lot of cool things. She did a lot of sequences for the original Fantasia, and then worked on the original Dumbo and the Reluctant Dragon as well. There's a lot of well-deserving artists whose names aren't recognized for a multitude of reasons. The reason being is just because of gender and how, and in Millicent Patrick's case, that is primarily the reason, and a little jealousy on her boss's part as to why she isn't necessarily credited with designing the Gill Man. And what happened was she ended up 1952. She started working at Universal Studios makeup department under Bud Westmore. Now remember that name because he's a jackass. She worked on a bunch of productions.
Also, can you get an even more like Hollywood name of the era than Bud Westmore?
Right, exactly. Like just such, you can smell this man's crew cut, right? His flat top, buzzed on the sides, and skinny tie. His horn rim glasses. Like if you've seen, so if you watched Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water, like Bud Westmore is totally the G-man asshole guy that buys the turquoise Cadillac. Like he is that pinnacle of toxic masculinity from the 1950s. But regardless, so he hires Patrick because she shows a lot of promise, and she worked on makeup for a lot of great movies. It Came from Outer Space, and as well as Mr. Hyde from El Baron Costello meets Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. As well as she made the mask for the Mole People, and then worked on the Metaluda mutant from This Island Earth, which is a phenomenal piece of work just by itself, right? It's because of her design for It Came from Outer Space, which is a 1953 movie, for those wondering. I don't know if they reused that title for anything else, but just to do away with the ambiguity there. It's because of her work on that she was thought of to do the Gill Man. She made this beautiful design. And obviously it was used for Creature for the Black Lagoon. And then what ended up happening was she was sent on a press tour that was supposed to be called The Beauty Who Created the Beast, to discuss the creation of the Gill Man and her thought processes and so on and so forth. But then Bud Westmore, professional jackass, if we recall, retitled it the press tour, The Beauty Who Lives with the Beast, to avoid citing Patrick as the creator for the Gill Man. And essentially burying her, and then was informed that she no longer worked for Universal Studios shortly thereafter due to Westmore's jealousy over Patrick being associated as the creator of the Gill Man, because he wanted all the credit, obviously, but every artist has their underlings, right? And everyone serves as a mentor. But if you are specifically hired, in Millicent Patrick's case, because your work was just so good and you did 90% of the work, you did the initial designs and the sculpts and what have you, you created that creature. That was all you. What did Bud Westmore do? He painted it green. He gave like an extra shade of green. I mean, which is like the shittiest way to be a teacher or a mentor. But it's the 1950s. So anyway, it's an amazing design, and I'm glad that Millicent is finally getting the credit she deserves. No longer with us, but she lives on in the creation of what I think is the most unique Universal horror monster. Regardless of what your opinion is of Creature from the Black Lagoon, I like it a lot. I think it's probably one of the better of the early Universal horror movies. Can't say the same about the sequel, but so it goes.
Revenge of the Creature.
Revenge of the Creature. Yeah, it suffers from like the same Jaws 2 thing, where it's just like a rehash but less motivated. But regardless,
the Gill Man was like the last one, right? Like, I mean, like he was like of the sort of like core Universal monsters, like of that era, right? He's sort of like I mean, before they got into like their sequelitis, and then
or
I just mean like the last sort of like creation, like as a monster, as a character.
Yeah, that's true. He came late to the game, which is probably why there aren't a lot of sequels with it. But then I think that what do you call it? Like all of the inspired works, because they're all from like romantic literature or old folks tales and what have you. They essentially dried up. So this is literally like Universal's most unique creation. And
yeah, I was going to ask if it was based, if you knew if it was based on anything in particular.
What I know in terms of Millicent's motivation and design was just Dovanian period of reptiles and amphibians. So very much prehistoric illustrations of the time and so on and so forth. Very much like Ray Harryhausen and his stop motion dinosaurs with a little bit of flair. Harryhausen would always say that he never tried to go super realistic because you could just look at a book for realism. So he wanted to be a little bit more fantastical and, put a few extra horns or design like a fancier tail. And I imagine Patrick took that spirit and applied it to this as well. Artistic flourish, if you will. Obviously, there isn't a bipedal reptile amphibian creature that we know of from from the prehistoric age, but no, it wouldn't be like something, say, like later on, like Godzilla or Gamera, for example, where they're based on like old yokai or Chinese astrology creatures. Nothing that set in stone. If you've seen etchings of Leviathan from the Old Testament, he definitely has luscious lips and very large scales, right? So, who's to say what the thought process was exactly? But regardless, the outcome.
Those lips don't Leviathan.
Oh! I wish I had my ham horn. That would be a great use of it. But yeah, so remember the name Millicent Patrick. Remember the book, The Lady from the Black Lagoon by Mallory O'Mara. A fantastic read. Watch Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's great. And it's also in 3D. Nothing that needs any extra technology besides the blue and red 3D glasses you can get for like $2 on Amazon. So it makes for an interesting watch with the family.
Those lips are just right in your face.
Right in your face. Coming in for a smooch.
This could potentially sound like a callback. My second creature is actually a type of creature, or a species of creature, I should say. Small, voracious creatures that are very mischievous, and they will eat almost anything in their path. They're funny to watch. Do you know what I'm talking about? They reproduce.
I have two ideas. I want to say my first is Gremlins, because going back to
call back to our episode 0,
the new batch. But then, which would be a great tie-in for this episode. But then also Critters comes to mind.
Well, I am in fact talking about the Krites, better known as Critters.
Oh, yeah.
So you are correct. So Critters is a series of movies. I think there are 4 of them. I have only seen 3 of them. And even at that, I've seen the first and the second one. I know I've seen the third one, but I could tell you very little about it except that Leonardo DiCaprio is in it. Like, I think it's his first. I think it might be Leonardo DiCaprio's first role in the third movie.
Sounds about right.
So anyway, so the Krites, again, better known as Critters, they are a small, furry, dark, carnivorous creature. They can roll themselves up like a hedgehog and kind of move that way. They can also shoot quills from their fur, which will, hurt and paralyze. Their other sort of main thing that they can do is a whole swarm of them can get together and basically roll up into a huge ball, like a critter katamari. And
that's a great way of putting it, by the way. Just this furry mass,
and then just kind of roll and cause destruction that way.
It's like the Totoro from hell.
Yeah. The Krites come from space, so I suppose they are technically aliens. They broke free from a prison asteroid before heading to Earth, which to me implies, so are the critters intelligent? I mean, they are, because they seem to communicate with each other a bit, right? Like there's sometimes there's kind of like a leader, sometimes there's like a big krite that's kind of ordering the other ones around. And I mean, I would say they have basically like gremlin intelligence. Would you agree with that?
I would agree. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It varies as to whether, it varies as to how much personality they have. Gremlins definitely have the more personality, but I think because critters just explode in populace, they can't give them all charming personalities or distinct personalities.
Right. There aren't a lot of unique critters. The reason why I say they must have some form of intelligence is because, again, the backstory of them breaking out of a prison versus just being vermin, right? Like just being like rats. These were at some point apparently captured and put into jail rather than just exterminated. But anyways, we know this because throughout the series, they are the series takes place on Earth, except for the one that takes place in space. But they are chased by some space bounty hunters. The main one is named Ugg. Is that right? I think it's just Ugg.
Yeah, Ugg.
And Ugg, I'm trying to remember. He sees this rock star, this fictitious rock star on TV, and he transforms himself to look like that rock star. So the bounty hunter has sort of a Mick Jagger quality to him.
He's got that swagger, that bad boy swagger,
and the big hair and all that, but still
the
in sort of like
lips.
leather straps. This is the lip episode. And then his partner, I believe it's in the second one. I remember this scene so clearly from my dad watching this on TV and me watching this. They have to see something to transform into it. These are not the critters. These are the bounty hunters. So he sees like a Playboy magazine and he turns into the model in the centerfold. And there is, obviously it's for, 12-year-old appeal. But there is, I think, a really funny joke where he or she, at this point, after she transforms, she looks down and she has a giant staple in her midsection. So she has to pull the staple out because that's what was on the centerfold. Anyways, back in the day when they had magazines with centerfolds.
Yes, back in the before time of the internet.
Back in the 1900s. I love the critters. Like I said, the first two in particular. I mean, a Gremlins vibe, sure, but I would say it's definitely its own thing. It's like schlockier than Gremlins for sure. Interestingly enough, the critters were actually designed by the Kyoto brothers. So we're talking like 1986 is when the movie came out. Designed by the Kyoto brothers, who were puppeteers, special effects guys who did not only Critters, but my other favorite, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, yes.
So I think that somewhere there has to be, I think there's opportunity there for a Killer Clowns from Outer Space versus Critters. I don't know why that hasn't been done.
Good point. I feel that's ripe for the development. And I think that would be at least fun. I think Shudder should get on that, or somebody. Mm-hmm. They did that.
I mean, they both just want to cause chaos, right? And
true. Imagine if they teamed up and then they got into like a silly argument, and then it was every creature for itself. I could see that plot happening.
Now, we brought up Gremlins and how this does sound a lot like Gremlins, and certainly there were a lot of Gremlins cash-ins after the success of the first Gremlins movie. The director of Critters maintains that was not the case, that Critters was actually the script was actually written before Gremlins even went into production, and they saw the similarities and actually changed the script as much as they could to kind of try to distance itself from Gremlins. Is that true or not? I mean, I can see it being true because honestly, the two franchises don't really have that much in common apart from small creatures that eat stuff and are dangerous and cause mischief.
Yeah, it's like apples and oranges.
Yeah.
They're both round, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not much else.
There's no good critter. There's no gizmo.
Right. There's no
critter.
gizmo.
So I think I think this definitely falls into the category of just fun popcorn romp. Even just little things like when the one critter gets shot. I think it's in Critters 2, and instead it blows his hair off. And they he screams, and of course they use like a girl scream.
And it's just like this flesh-colored like ball.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember which one. Is that the same one? Yeah, it is, right? Like he gets shot and then he screams, but then he sees himself in the mirror and he gurbles something, but the subtitle is like bitchin'.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's very
he's feeling himself. Like he likes his new look.
Yeah.
Or they like their new look.
Right. So those are the krites. Those are the critters from outer space. Oh, also, isn't Angela Bassett in the third one?
Ooh,
in space.
My foggy
just
memory
like
wants
another
to say yes.
Weird, like, why is this like well-respected actress in Critters 3?
Sometimes you just gotta pay off your car bill,
Yep.
Just like the company car for Monster Market, Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it.
Come see me in the new Critters movie. I mean, me being in a Critters movie is not slumming it. I'm no Angela Bassett. Halfway point, Mr. Universe, do you have some recommendations? I know you already talked about one book, the Lady from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. I have.
You said you might have some other stuff.
I do. I have a whole stack next to me. Now it's the debate as to
all of which I'm going to read to you right now.
I'll read to you in full. So I have two books that I would like to recommend. The first is called Ishiru Honda, A Life in Film from Godzilla to Kurosawa. And any Tokusatsu fan, Godzilla fan, knows Ishiru Honda as the man who directed many Showa era, that's the first era, Godzilla movies. And this book is actually quite amazing. The amount of research that went into it is kind of astounding. They go film by film, like his early start, the circumstances in which he grew up in, and how he became the director of Godzilla, ended up working for Toho, and then his friendship with the amazing Akira Kurosawa, and just, it's not a dry read. Like, you think of these books and you think, oh man, this is going to be like academically dry text, right? But this is actually kind of very captivating, and how it's written, very personable, a lot of anecdotes. One that I'll share with you is when he was very early best friends with Akira Kurosawa. And so when he was away to work, post World War II, post, the American bombings, everything was kind of in rubble. And so resources were scarce. So Kurosawa went to visit his home at the time, and only his wife was home. So his wife gave him a beer and told him to, just relax and what have you. And she went off to do some errands. And then when she came back, half the beer was drinking, and a note was left by Kurosawa that said, "Save the rest for later." or for yourselves. Thank you for your generosity. And so that was just kind of the deep, heartfelt relationship that they had with one another. But then also how humanistic this portrayal is of Honda. And it's just amazing. Like, you really get a sense of who he was as a person. Um, and I cannot recommend it enough. And it even goes to the lengths at which he took Godzilla seriously when no one else did. Like, the first day on set of Godzilla, he says, "You've all read the script. If you don't think it's worth taking seriously, I kindly ask you to leave." And then just how he would work with these very young actors, and he would act it out how the scene would play out in front of them, and they would start laughing, and then he goes, "Why are you laughing? You're gonna have to do this." um, yeah, it's a great book. It's a great book, and I highly recommend it. But anyway, the name of the book is Ishiro Honda: A Life in Film from Godzilla to Kurosawa. You can get it on Kindle. I actually own both physical and a Kindle copy, and both are worth having. It's just great. The next book is actually out of print, but if you can find it, definitely worth seeking out. It's Eiji Tsuburaya, Master of Monsters. This is the special effects super genius who made the tokusatsu subgenre, right? He is the guy behind Ultraman, Godzilla, Kaidam Rider, and Super Satan, if I'm pronouncing that right, which the Super Satan series to Americans is what turned into Power Rangers. It's pretty much all of the wonky suits that were then interspliced with American teenagers.
Do you want to really quick just explain tokusatsu in case?
Yes.
Because most of our listeners will understand Godzilla, but...
Yes, tokusatsu is the name. Its translation is special photography, but it pretty much is synonymous with suitmation, or men in rubber, or people in rubber suits. So Godzilla,
Yeah.
Gamera, Ultraman, just like these giant, well, quote, they look giant compared to the small models that they destroy. Or, these giant creatures that end up, having like a boxing match and so on. That is tokusatsu in a nutshell. And really, Eiji Tsuburaya is the grandfather, the great grandfather, the pioneer of it all. He had a very similar start to Ishiro Honda, really working freelance during the American occupation of Japan, because he originally worked for Toho before World War II, and then his work was interpreted by the American occupying force as fascist leaning or sympathetic to the emperor. And so Toho, to just for political reasons, laid him off. And then he ended up just working freelance, and to his credit, successfully freelancing, starting, it wasn't Tsuburaya Corporation at the time, but it is essentially what would become the company that still exists today and still does a lot of the Shin Ultramans and what have you. Anyway, I'm getting long-winded with this, but he did such a great job that the Toho ended up hiring him back when America left Japan, and he was assigned to a few pictures before he got assigned to Godzilla. And him and Ishiro Honda, it was like one of those situations where they were differing personalities, but they understood each other and they trusted each other, because Tsuburaya had this tendency of being difficult to work with because he was such a perfectionist. In some degrees, there's this great anecdote of I forget which movie it is, but there's a scene where it's a terribly fake horse, and they say, "Why didn't you just use a composite shot of an actual horse. And then Tsuburaya goes, because it was more fun this way. So, he was a perfectionist to a point where he was still having fun. But the way that they made like Godzilla and their working relationship for all the other movies that they worked on together were they would storyboard and Tsuburaya would know the exact shots and how Honda was going to compose them. And so he would know how to compose his special effects shots. And so it would be more or less seamless, which is what makes the first Godzilla extremely great. And then just as another aside, like they originally wanted to do it all stop motion, but it was going to be, I think, too expensive or too time consuming. So he was just like, let's put a guy in a rubber suit. And the rest is history. Tokusatsu. Eiji Tsuburaya, Master of the Monsters, is this great book that, much like the Ishiro Honda book that I just talked about, really delves into his early life and leading up to like all the productions he worked on, the styles he worked with, and just a really great in-depth examination of his career. Unfortunately, it's out of print, but if you can find it at a library, that's how I originally found it. And then by happenstance, I found an eBay listing that was just essentially giving it away. So I jumped on that. I hope it gets re-released because it's very, very good. Very good indeed.
Yeah, I was just looking at I feel lucky. I have this book.
Oh, nice. So you're the only other person in this world. Yeah. All right, beautiful. Before I segue, do you mind if I just tap out to use the little monsters room?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool. Boop, 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 boop. And I'm back. So I think the cat's out of the bag for my next one, or should I say the monsters have left Monster Island for my next topic.
The man is out of the rubber suit.
The man is out of the rubber suit. So Tokusatsu is my next series of monsters, groups of monsters. I had a hard time deciding whether or not I wanted to talk about Godzilla or Gamera. So I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to cover the entire subgenre of Tokusatsu in 7 minutes or less, because that's not daunting at all. I love these movies, be it Godzilla, be it Gamera, be it Ultra Q, or all the Ultraman series, which I haven't watched all of them, but I've recently started, and my God, it's just so campy and so fun.
Yeah.
Kamen Rider.
You've seen Inframan, right? Inframan.
Yeah, Super Inframan. The Shaw Brothers Shin.
Yes.
Ultra. I keep saying Shin Ultraman. That's the most recent one, which is also good. But anyway, Super
Sorry,
Inframan.
I didn't mean to derail you.
No, I mean, this is the daunting part, right? Is that there's just so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Not that I am in any position to tell you what to do, Zachary Banks, but I have this image of my head of the art for this particular section just being a bunch of the kaiju monsters high-fiving or something. Just broing out together.
Yeah.
Go ham, as you do. But anyway, the Super Inframan is definitely a great one to talk about because it is the best kind of ridiculousness from Tokusatsu. First of all, it's by Shaw Brothers, this Chinese production company known for their wuxia swordplay movies and their kung fu movies from like the 60s. That is a whole topic of another like podcast episode because the Shaw Brothers studio is just such a powerhouse of cinema in general. Like all of the American studios were in awe of what Shaw Brothers were capable of, and what they were able to accomplish. So anyway, Super Inframan is great because I love the designs of them, even though it's a knockoff of Ultraman, but still just the way he transforms. Like he always does this flip and then just like crashes down into all the enemies, which is very apropos of just Ultraman in general, especially like the Showa era, which maybe I should take just a brief 20 seconds to explain the eras of Japanese cinema.
Right.
Like how Americans, we know things by like, say, like the 80s or 90s, or say like that was the Clinton era, that was the Reagan era, so on and so forth. The Japanese Japanese culture in general really divides it up into these sections called Showa, Heisei. They're just ways to divvy up time, essentially. So when I refer to Showa era Godzilla or Ultraman, it's pretty much the old 60s and 70s releases of those. And then like the Heisei era is like the 80s and 90s, the later ones that I can't remember right now. Anyway, so that aside, a lot of people will probably think of the Showa era when they think of, Godzilla and Gamera and all these guys, which is, apropos. They tended to be the most schlocky, if you will, the most, you can see the wires, can't necessarily see the zipper behind the guy's back, but, you can see that hard rubber suit definitely fold and crinkle as rubber often does. But I love them. I love them so much. And then going back to Ultraman where he transforms, right? Like just to give you a sense of how like the campy goodness of it all, where he does like the same dance, depending on the Ultraman, he either puts on sunglasses, presses a button or what have you, does this like musical interlude of his suit just taking over his body, and then just off screen dives into the monster he's fighting just out of nowhere, either like a drop kick, an elbow, or a leg drop. Just amazing stuff. And depending on the Ultraman in particular, like it can get kind of brutal. There's one where he like decapitates the kaiju of the week. And sometimes it's like, you don't expect it. You're like, oh, this is like a campy kid show. And then an immediate gory turn happens. It's crazy.
Can I tell you my favorite example of that?
Yes, please.
It's in Gamera versus who's the big knife guy? Guiron?
The big knife guy.
Might be Guiron.
Yes. I think I just watched this. I just watched the MST3K version of it not too long ago.
Yeah, so okay. Gamera versus Guiron, which I think is a great one. It's one of my favorites. But anyways, so Guiron is this big dinosaur kind of creature that basically has a giant knife for a head. And like you said, it's a very like campy, silly, it's clearly aimed at kids. Like it's got, two kids as the main characters.
Yeah, Gamera more so than Godzilla. Like Gamera's always had that affinity, like telepathic connection angle with children.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gamera loves children. It's right there.
Yeah.
Gamera loves children. But anyway, so Guiron, this big knife dinosaur creature, is fighting Gaios, or there's lots of Gaioses. They kind of looks like, imagine a pterodactyl with a head that looks like a flattened arrow. But anyway, so he's fighting and he gets him on the ground and then proceeds to, with his knife head, saw off each wing like methodically while the thing is like screeching, and then beheads the monster. And it is like weird. Like it you sit there and you're like, oh my God. Like, because there's such a torturous like element. It's not just like, oh, I'm just hitting you and stuff. It's calculated. I'm going to saw this wing off, and then I'm going to saw that wing off, and now I'm going to cut your head off. Like, it feels very Japanese to me.
Yeah, like very it's a huge tonal shift. Like, you have like these goofy boxing matches essentially, and then suddenly premeditative murder on a kaiju scale happens and he becomes like Hannibal Lecter. But that's kind of the beauty of it all, where it's just so balls to the wall. You can't help but love it. But even then, right? I mean, you have, your silly, ridiculous moments like that, but then you also have like thoughtful meditations on, society, which is like what the first Godzilla was. And then even today with like a Godzilla -1, where, it's essentially like these monsters came out of a reaction to the atomic bomb and like that societal fear, right? And it makes it equally amazing that you had such a somber beginning, right, to this whole subgenre, and then it just becomes off the fucking rails. I don't know if we can swear, but off the rails, and just complete insanity. And you just love it all. Like that's what's great about it, is it caters to any type of mood or flavor that you bring to it, or that you want to experience.
I mean, it's like you said. I mean, one of the beauties of those types of movies that I love is, it feels like you're playing with toys. It feels like you're watching giant toys playing, which to me is the appeal, especially of like you said, you can tell that they're rubber suits. You can tell that they're tiny tanks, but it's like watching a play at that point. It's
right.
it feels like a performance. But the fact that like in is it Monster X? I can't remember which one it is. The fact that you can have Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra all having like a conversation about why they should team up to fight King Ghidorah, and have it like feel impactful. And they're just making noises, and they're all just sitting there, and like Mothra's trying to convince them of why they need to. And you sit there and you watch it, and you're like, and you're like, this is compelling. This is like, it's
I think that's Godzilla versus Mothra, and it's like, it is Rodan. It's Rodan and Godzilla just duking it out, and then Mothra comes out, and it's just like, you guys need to stop because King Ghidorah is just whooping all the humans. And then Godzilla's like, why should we help them? They keep shooting missiles at me. They're jerks.
Yep.
And it's like, touche. We never attempted to have a conversation with Godzilla before then. Thank you, Mothra, for being level-headed.
Yes. Yeah.
Speaking of playing with action figures, there is a whole series of Godzilla shorts called Godzilla Island, which all of the monster battles are Godzilla action figures, like big rubber action figures, and that's how they film the special effects scenes. So you'll have
is it like the stop motion ones?
No, they are just live action people with like sets, like the Muppets, like Manamana, just like people behind like a makeshift stage, just like duking it out with these Toho official issue action figures. And the whole series is on YouTube. Like if you go to Godzilla Official by Toho, they're all on there. Mileage might vary depending on your interest in this sort of thing, but I just get a kick out of it personally. Also worth mentioning, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Chibi Godzilla, which is essentially the Muppet Babies version of Godzilla, are all the kaijus from Godzilla, where they're hanging out on Monster Island, but they are the tiny babies of their respective versions. So there'll be baby Chibi Mothra, Chibi Mechagodzilla, Chibi Manila, which makes no sense because Manila is technically Godzilla's son. He's already a baby. So there's the baby of the baby. It's ridiculous. It can get ridiculous very quickly, and that to me is like one of the additional appeals to it. Yeah. Nice. I've talked a lot about tokusatsu. I can talk even longer, but I feel like this is a good end to it.
Why don't we wrap it up with this? I'm going to ask you, who are your 3 favorite kaiju?
My 3 favorite kaiju. Okay. Oh dear. You think I would think of this far out, right? At least get to this. King Ghidorah is my top. Well, in terms of design, I think a 3-headed golden dragon that shoots lightning is just a recipe for majestic. I don't even know how to finish that sentence. It's just a recipe for
gobsmacked.
I'm gobsmacked. Yeah, it's just a cool idea. It's just a cool creature. That said, he has the lamest deaths almost all the time. Like, especially in the Showa era. The Heisei era, when it's Godzilla versus King Ghidorah or King Ghidorah, however you want to pronounce that. That one he fares a little bit better because he, because of time travel shenanigans, comes back as Mecha King Ghidorah, and it gets even more ridiculous. And so, his lame deaths aside, the design is really great. They don't do him justice, but whatever. It's still fun to see him. Outside of that, in terms of always being entertaining, and satisfying Mechagodzilla, I find those are my favorite Godzillas to go back to. The rainbow lightning beam, the first one is really great because it's like this spy thriller that just happens to have kaiju in it. And it's just such a great break from the norm that I highly recommend it. And I highly recommend all of them. Like, there wasn't really a bad appearance, in this podcaster's humble opinion, of Mechagodzilla. He's always a fun time. He always brings like the interesting, throws a wrench in the usual works. So it's never really like ultra repetitive when you see Mechagodzilla. And then I love me some Mothra. I think Mothra is a G. She kicks ass. She brings the much needed feminine energy to the boys' party.
That's and right. A lot of people don't know Mothra is female.
Mothra is female, and just the whole build up to Mothra, especially like in the early movies, where for those that don't know, Mothra usually lives on an island. In order to wake her, there are these very tiny fairy women called the Peanuts that sing the Mothra song. They sing the Mothra song that gets the egg to hatch for the larva. Then the larval stage Mothra makes a cocoon, and then they sing the song again to get Mothra to turn into full-fledged Mothra, full-on moth, rainbow majesty, and then attack or help save the day, whatever the case may be. Yeah, it's great.
And we will sing it for you now.
Mathura! It's great. There is this old. We used to do the Midnite cast, and we had this episode about our favorite songs. Or like movies that had a song named after the movie. I forget what the exact title was. It's very long, but we talked about the Mothra theme. So if you want to go digging for that, pretty cool episode. We talk a lot about cool songs, including that one.
For my final monster, I want to take you to the American West.
Oh, dip. Ham horn.
Specifically, I want to take you to a tiny little desert town called Perfection, Nevada.
Oh, man.
Have you been to Perfection?
To a degree. I would say a few degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Well, yes, we are in a place where Kevin Bacon has been, and I am talking about the graboids from the movie Tremors.
Yes!
So, graboids are giant 30-foot worms, basically, that live underground, and they sense vibrations on the surface, and they can burst through the surface. They have these massive jaws, and as if that weren't bad enough, having these massive jaws, they have these 3 sort of like snake-like tentacles that come out of their mouths as well, and that's important. They're like a giant prehistoric worm. I think it's explained later. Now, what's interesting is most people know or at least they know the worms from Tremors, but there's actually a whole life cycle. The graboid is just one part of that. So when this graboid has eaten enough, usually in the case of Tremors, people,
to say the least,
the three tentacles, the three things, they actually kind of like break off and burst out of the graboid, and they become something called shriekers. So these 3 individual shriekers, and shriekers are kind of these bipedal, short, squat things. They're totally blind, and but they have like these flaps that open up on their head, and they can detect infrared. So that's how they hunt. Now, the shriekers, you might think like, oh, that's interesting. There's like a metamorphosis. The graboid becomes the shrieker. But we're not done. The shrieker is only like the middle, because there's another form. Do you know about the next form that comes after the shriekers?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't know there are multiple forms until you mentioned it right now. So I am intrigued. I have not seen the entire franchise. Maybe I should do a marathon.
Do the first 3 anyways. Okay. Because I mean the first 2 for sure, but in the third one you want to see the next form. So the shrieker ends up like kind of molting its skin, and it becomes in its final form known as an ass blaster. That is the official term. So the ass blaster creates a very volatile chemical in its belly, and so basically it can shoot fire out of its butthole, and it can fly that way like a rocket.
Gamera style.
And then the ass blaster. What's that?
I said like Gamera style, just
yes.
Fire out of its appendages.
Yes, well, out of its butt.
Out of its butt, not appendage.
So it's just one, not like 4. The ass blaster. Then I think the egg does come from the ass blaster, but it's a little murky from there. for me, because I haven't seen that far into it either. So the first Tremors came out in 1990. It was all practical effects, by a couple of names that, for people who are into special effects, will probably recognize. This was the first big movie, effects wise, done by Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr., who were proteges of Stan Winston.
Yes.
So all
the
OG. So all of the graboids, all of the shriekers are all big giant puppets and animatronics and stuff in the first two. The third one starts to go CG, like with the ass blasters, and it's that era of CG. It's that late 90s, early 2000s CG where they were using CG everywhere and it looks really CG. So unfortunately, it does sort of take a little dip in quality. But the first two movies, for sure, definitely check out. You mentioned Degrees of Separation. Yes, Kevin Bacon is in the first movie.
One of his best roles.
I mean, yeah, sure. Kevin Bacon in them tight, dusty jeans. The cast, it's like an ensemble cast in the first one. And I think the whole cast is great. But there are two other people in the cast that I want to bring up. Michael Gross, who plays Burt Gummer, who is like a survivalist, gun nut, prepper type character. You will recognize Michael Gross because he's the dad on Family Ties. And so...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
If you're like a kid and you're watching Family Ties and you're seeing the dad, and then all of a sudden he's this like crazy prepper character in Tremors, like it's just totally different. But the character becomes, he's just a supporting character in the movie, but he's so popular that he's the only character and the only actor who has been in every single Tremors movie. Because you could tell he's just having a blast doing it.
Yeah, he's having a really great time.
Yeah, and in addition to that, his wife... You've seen the first movie, yes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the first movie. I've probably seen the second one on TV, but I've never explored beyond that. So Ass Blaster is new to me.
Yeah. But so Burt Gummer's wife, who I feel is equally enjoyable in the first movie, although she doesn't come back in the second. I think she might appear. This is like so many of these franchises. This is another one where, like, technically, I think there's probably like 7 movies in the entries. Like, they stop numbering them and they're just sort of like made for TV or, stuff like that. But do you remember who played his wife in the movie? I'll tell you, Miss Reba McEntire.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Again, another bizarre, like, why is Reba McEntire in this movie? And also looks like she's having a blast doing the movie.
Yeah.
Like, the two of them just are having so much fun playing those characters in this movie.
That's kind of what's great about him, is that everyone just has so much chemistry. Like, you can just tell that they are getting along and just having a hoot with everything. No one's taking it too seriously,
right.
Or at least seriously enough where they still give like great performances, but they know what they're making.
Yeah,
it's like
they're just having, like I said, they're just having a ball shooting that movie. You can tell.
It's like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. It's like he knew what kind of movie he was in, but he was just going to have like a great time doing it regardless.
Yeah. Or the witches in Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
You could tell they're playing. They're having so much fun.
Oh yeah, loving the makeup, just hamming it up, filling the screen.
Exactly. So those are the graboids from Tremors. Again, apparently this movie was conceived by the two writers after they did. Oh crap! I can't remember. There was something. It was a hit that they wrote. They did Short Circuit.
Yes. How could we forget about Short Circuit?
The two writers who wrote Short Circuit had a hit with that, and apparently they were filming for something else, and they were out in the desert, and they were sitting on this big rock, and one of them said, like, what if there was something that was preventing us from getting off of this rock? And that's sort of where that was the genesis of the concept of Tremors. Because again, if you haven't seen the movie, the graboids are attracted to vibrations, and so one of the things that the survivors realize is they need to get to higher ground so that they're not walking directly on the sand. So that includes rocks, the tops of buildings. There's very iconic scenes of them pole vaulting between, So again, I would say Tremors, very fun movie, and definitely just it's an ass blasting good time.
This is the portion of the podcast where I'm not sure where to go. There are two that I would definitely like to talk about, although they are very much worlds apart. However,
do you want to do one and then do like a quick honorable mention?
Yeah, we could do that. Okay. I know you would probably prefer me to talk about one of these over the other.
Okay, I feel like I already have. Okay.
And maybe that would be what Arnold would mention. I don't know. I feel like, considering we're talking about so much practical effects, it might be more fitting. However, there is a special place in my heart for the other one. So how about this? Honorable mention.
Follow your heart.
Honorable mention to the Iron Giant, which I love. I thought about mentioning him a little bit too late in my research, but I do love that movie, and props to early Vin Diesel voiceover. I feel like he's since been known for Groot, and also the Pitch Black series and so on and so forth. But really early role for him, an amazing role for the Iron Giant. Was it Brad Bird, I believe? Director, writer, thought of this idea of a robot that came to Earth, essentially a gun with a soul that didn't want to be a gun, and just a great homage to 1950s sci-fi movies. Love it. So honorable mention to that. Didn't do enough research to really have a full-blown conversation about it, but just wanted to put that out there. So now my actual choice, which Zach has probably already guessed, but we're taking you back to 80s suburbia in LA, and a unique visitor harvesting some vegetations and gets left behind and then is found. Elliot. E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
I thought we were talking about Mac from Mac and Me.
We can do an honorable mention for that lovely McDonald's commercial as well. Oh my lord.
E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yes. Should we mention your affinity for this monster, or should we just keep it cash?
So you are mentioning all of this because I have revealed that I've revealed to you in the past that I had a very long and fraught relationship with E.T. the Extraterrestrial, in that it was the first movie that I ever saw in the theaters. Um, but I was very, very young. It was, the story goes that my mom and my aunt wanted to see it, but I was very small, and they were like, "Oh, do you think you could sit through it?" And it's like, "Yeah." So they brought me, and again, apparently the lore is that they actually brought a pillow for me to sit on, and I was too young because E.T. then became my boogeyman for the rest of my life. I was always afraid that he was going to come to the door. I was always afraid that he was, and I don't know what he was going to do. I think he was just going to point at me with his fingers. But also E.T. was massive, and like there were E.T. dolls, and like they were in my room, and I had to like ask my mom to take them out of my room. So that's my fraught relationship with ET. But I'm so happy to learn more about ET, and I'm considering this portion immersion therapy.
I feel like a dick for bringing it up, because you told me this once upon a time, but I forgot how serious it was. I didn't realize
it's not that serious. I mean, when I was like 4, but
okay.
It's no, this is fine. I'm hamming it up.
Gotcha. I appreciate the ham. But well, you know what's also funny is that I have a very similar story, because I saw E.T. at a young age, and I don't think I was as I didn't have as much of a knee-jerk reaction to it watching the movie, but my parents got me, and it's like one of the earliest memories I have is the ceramic E.T. statue. Mm-hmm. And so my dad brings it home. He puts it on the kitchen table, and he's like, "Hey, look what we got for you." And I was terrified of it. I was like, "What is this? This is not the same thing. This is a creepy monster." And so they put it in the basement. It was like our first house, so the basement was a bit more furnished. And so I would, walk down the stairs, but not all the way, and just kind of stick my head out from between the bars to like get a side glimpse of it. And then as soon as I saw it, I would just run back up the stairs. And they eventually just had to return it. And funny sidebar is, like, I told the story to my partner, who's my wife, and she's been on like a mission to find this ceramic abomination, just for the laughs, because we would get a kick out of like, how bad is this portrayal of ET? Because you can really screw up ET. It's not hard to make a bad version of ET. There's plenty of them out there. Well,
especially do you have any sense as to whether it was like an officially licensed ceramic ET, or was it like a knockoff?
I have no sense. I was also probably 4 at the time.
Yeah.
And again, ET was huge. It's hard to oversell how big ET was to people who aren't familiar, who didn't live around that time, because it was gigantic. And so the demand probably outpaced the amount of official merch, I imagine. So there was probably like a slew of knockoffs. So I imagine that this was just one of many. My dad was probably, I don't know, at Bradley's or something, and was just like, "Oh man, Dave's gonna love this." Sorry to disappoint. So
tell us about ET.
Oh my God. So
for those of us who weren't alive during the reign of E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yeah, so E.T. came directed by Steven Spielberg, for those that didn't know, and co-written by Spielberg. And an interesting story, and one thing that I will say right off the top is there's a great book out, The Ultimate Visual History of E.T. Really great compendium, filled with interviews of everyone who was involved, but then also like great reproductions of the script, lobby cards, conceptual sketches. what have you. You name it, it's in this book. So for a more full history, where there isn't like a time crunch, highly recommend it. I actually ended up getting it for $12. So it's really not like expensive if you know where to look. So check it out. So the idea behind E.T., Spielberg was making Close Encounters, as the story goes. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And at the end of that, there was an alien that follows the rest of the group after Richard Dreyfuss's character is taken back up and taken with the aliens. And Spielberg was like, oh, what would happen if that alien was left behind? And so he goes on to make like the first Raiders movie, 1941, of course. And then sitting with this story. And years later, he would admit that he also was looking for a way to talk about his parents' divorce and how it affected him as a kid. And so he sort of melded these two ideas together. And essentially makes like a sci-fi divorce drama, which I think is underselling it a little bit because it's so much more than that. Mm-hmm. But I think it is a great way to introduce the main thesis of it. Like, is what does a family do? Like, how does a kid react to divorce? And like, what would happen if the kids had to be put in a situation where they ended up having to be the caregivers to something, right? Knowing that empathy of being vulnerable and alone, and then making like a surrogate family out of it. It's a really touching story. Even more bizarre because of how E.T. looks. Because
hold on. So before you get to that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I had heard at one point, or maybe at one point, I heard that Steven Spielberg always said that E.T. was not a kids movie, that it's an adult movie about kids.
I might have,
and I can see because full disclosure, I have seen E.T. since I was 2 years old.
Yeah,
but I can see what I think he's trying to convey in that statement.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it takes what kids are feeling and gives them weight. Like, I feel like a lot of quote unquote kids movies, they sort of do like a superficial portrayal of it. Like, it's very, one note, one dimensional.
At worst, it's dishonest.
At worst, it's dishonest, right? And the magic of E.T., I feel, is that it's just so sincere in with its portrayal of how the kids are feeling. It takes them seriously. And I can see what you mean by, it being like an adult movie about kids because of that seriousness that you wouldn't necessarily find. I haven't heard Spielberg say that directly in like my research, but what he has mentioned is that before him making E.T., he noticed that kids were never the focus. It was always, within the context of the adults, and the kids were just sort of there. Which, I mean, you could, use Gamera as an example of the kids are there, but then they also have to have the help of the adults to get anything done, right? It's like the kids convincing the adults to do stuff. Whereas with E.T., the kids are doing essentially whatever they want. They scheme to make it so that the adults don't know, and so on and so forth. But also what's interesting is that it's all filmed from waist down, with the exception of the mom. So you don't see any of the adults' faces until like the very end, where they quarantine the family's house. And then there's the character Keys, called Keys because all you see is his waist, and then he has a keychain filled with keys for the entire movie. And that's really that's his only identifier up until that point, until he walks through the hazmat area. So up until that point, it's just all from the kid's perspective, literally. And so you do not empathize with any of the adults, really. They are just, the Charlie Brown want voices, Tex Avery, legs, if you will. Or we talked about Muppet
Right.
Babies before. The nanny is just a pair of legs, and then everyone else is in full frame, right? So it's a lot like that, and I feel like that contributes to his intention of kids have legit emotions that are worth telling a story about. And again, all that is wrapped up in a recent divorce. But what's fascinating is that the word divorce doesn't appear once in the movie. All you find out is that dad is in Mexico with Sally. And then you see the mom's reaction to that. You hear Drew Barrymore, her first role in E.T., her character saying, "Where's Mexico?" The dude goes to Mexico with his new wife, never thought to bring his family to Mexico or even offer, right? Goes to show, just tells you everything you need to know about this off-screen character. End of story, right? Mm-hmm. Don't even need to mention it, right? So then every reaction and thought process that happens with the kids and ET really stem from that initial breakfast scene. It's masterful, right? Like, you don't need to say anything more about it because it's all captivated in how they react to each other. And like their protectiveness of ET, especially like with the character Elliot, played by Henry Thomas, which, I mean, he was acting up until very recently, but it's still another phenomenal performance. Everyone was great in this movie. But even like the way that they filmed it, right, to that end, considering their reactions, right, where this is like one of the rare times that Spielberg filmed in chronological order, because all the scenes where the kids see ET for the first time was actually the first time that they saw the animatronic. And so that is their legit reaction of in confusion and puzzlement and fascination. And the idea with filming in chronological order was that they get more comfortable with the animatronic, much like the characters get more comfortable with ET. And so they developed this relationship organically. And more so, reading into it, Spielberg was like, I also wanted to make it easier for the kids so that they knew the sense of time that they were in. Yesterday happened yesterday, today's happening today, and then tomorrow's happening tomorrow. Right, so it would be a much more simpler way to convey how the story is unfolding, which is linearly, right? So all that's fantastic, but then we can talk about E.T. proper. This beloved, doughy-eyed, wrinkly old man of an extraterrestrial.
With an old lady smoker voice.
Yes, an old lady smoker voice. Pat Welsh. Pat Welsh is that old lady smoker. And as the story goes, one of the producers, pardon me for not knowing everyone's name, because it takes a village to make these movies, but she was working at a convenience store or something, as the story goes, in one of the bonus materials, and as the producer said, he just heard her voice and he was like, that's it, that's the voice of ET. So he just finds this lady at random and then just has her record a lot of like the rough cut dialogue that they put in like the initial versions, and then even then her voice is still in the final cuts because it was just so good. And that's just the voice. Never mind the like 20 people team of people turning actuators and levers to get just like the hand movements, the eye movements. There's actually
Puppeteers.
All the puppeteers. There's one lady that specifically did all of E.T.'s grabbing gestures. So there's these great scenes of her in like these arm-length ET gloves, just digging into the dirt, or playing with the speak and spell. And so she's working in tandem with this armless ET puppet, as everyone behind the camera is working in unison with her movements to blink the eyes or bob the head and so on and so forth. Like, quite literally a village got ET to be the empathetic creature that he was. Also, another tidbit, there's a scene of ET, he gets completely schlobber faced because he's at home, he's at Elliot's home, he's left alone. He raids the fridge, experimenting with all the food, finds the beer. He gets hammered. And so there's this great scene of him just like flopping face down in a blue flannel shirt. And that was actually a boy that was born without legs.
What?
Yes. Matthew Demerit. Matthew Demerit was the young boy born without legs. He would walk on his hands. He was 12 years old at the time of filming E.T., and so he was put into the suit, and he is the performance of E.T. being drunk, falling down on his face.
Wow.
Yes. Which,
I had no idea.
Yeah, it is just an amazing accomplishment of practical effects, to say the least. Yeah, just the amount of people and thought it took to get this to work is just phenomenal. That's the team that got E.T. to function, right? But then the design itself was by Carlo Rambaldi, who worked with Spielberg on Close Encounters of the Third Kind, with all of those aliens. And then he has an extensive portfolio where he also worked on Ridley Scott's Alien, Blood for Dracula, if you are a Paul Morrissey fan. And then the 1976 King Kong, just to name a few. But so he designed E.T. and he went through a bunch of revisions, obviously. Like, if you look at the visual history, like he essentially just started off with where they left off in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because his initial creature design was very reminiscent of that. And then I think Spielberg wanted him, what is now known as the Disney effect, where you put big doughy eyes on something and you automatically like think it's cute and empathetic. So he essentially said, I want him to have like these big welcoming eyes, but then he also eventually said he wanted him to also feel a bit more what's the word? Vulnerable. So that's why he wanted to have him have a long neck, but then not extend it until he feels comfortable with the kids. So he doesn't extend his neck until, he is in the closet with Drew Barrymore and the brothers. Right. So a lot of thought went into that. So shout out to Carlo Rambaldi for making the least cutifiable creature. They've gotten really good at it now. If you see the merchandise that Universal is pumping out with E.T., I think they finally hit their stride in making him cute instead of, passively horrifying. I have one of the original action figures from the 1980s, and he doesn't look good. He's
sort of hard to chibify.
Yeah, it's hard to chibify, exactly. But they definitely have figured out the formula now. But But regardless, I mean, just to make a design where it could be offsetting at first and then, you come to grow and love it, is an achievement to say the least. And then, I mean, I could go on and on about this, but I feel like our kaiju discussion really ballooned out of control. So I'm going to reel this back, and I'm going to say that E.T. is pretty great, especially like when you think of the themes that Spielberg was trying to deliver with it. I think it's like a home run. I recently watched The Fabelmans recently, which I don't like as much. And it's interesting because that is also a divorce story. And I feel like it's a less effective divorce story than E.T. because there's really no respite. There's no like creativity necessarily. It's just, you see the family fall apart. And it's like, that's not necessarily like endearing. There isn't like an upswing of hope. It's just sort of a realistic
realistic documentary of
yeah, like he calls it The Fabelmans, but you could easily just say this is the Spielbergs, because this is essentially him doing a visual autobiography, right? And I feel like art is really the blurring between fact and fiction, and I feel like this is like Spielberg at his peak, where he really had passion for his story he wanted to tell, in a very creative way. And so, love me some E.T. If you go on my Instagram, there's a lovely picture of myself as a little boy in a bike with E.T. in the basket, and then also me as a grown-ass man on a bike with E.T. in the basket. So, ceramic E.T.s aside, I've definitely had an affinity for this little guy for a while.
Your love of E.T. is enduring.
Yes. So much so that I want to talk about it in a podcast with somebody whose love of E.T. hasn't been so enduring. So, immersion therapy complete.
Yes. I mean, I've wanted to rewatch it. Like I said, I have seen it since I was a kid, but I haven't seen it probably in easily 10 years or more. So I do want to go in with I want to watch it. I definitely do want to watch it. And not I am aware of the that Spielberg did special edition it. George Lucas gets a lot of crap for special editioning the Star Wars, but you don't often hear about Spielberg's special editioning of E.T.
Yes.
You don't hear about that as much.
Which isn't as easy to find nowadays.
If he put Boba Fett in it, right?
He put Boba Fett and some dewbacks as his original creative intent, of course. I think it was for the 20th or the 25th anniversary edition, back when DVDs were first coming out, and there are a bunch of shots he couldn't do practically. There was one where E.T. was like in a bathtub, and the practical puppet just wouldn't react well to the sludge of water that it absorbed while submerged. So he has like extra scenes of a CG E.T., and he remixed some of him running away in the woods and so on. But the real egregious thing he did that everyone gave him
which
shit,
I think he has said that he now regrets doing.
Yes, right? Yes, absolutely. Hence why this version is no longer available outside of their initial DVD, is that when the government, the G-Men, the Men in Black, finally track down Elliot and his friends, they do a roadblock, and they have rifles, like shotguns at the ready, trying to stop these kids riding their bikes toward them. And then, the scene comes and they fly off and hover above them.
That's the iconic scene. That is the iconic E.T. scene of all of them flying in the bikes. It's to get over that roadblock.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And what he did in the special edition was turn the guns into radios, walkie-talkies, if you will. And pointing guns at anybody isn't great, but at the same time, I don't think that roadblocks and what roadblocks do, I think requires firearms by default. Like, that's kind of realistic. And I think it just sort of cheapens the dramatic the dramatic stakes that the kids are facing, right? Like,
it turns it into a cartoon, and I'm using that as a pejorative in this case.
Right. I mean, and if we go back to why, I was saying why E.T. was great, because it takes those kids' emotions seriously, right? And with sincerity, and tells it from like their perspective. Saying that kids and guns are off-putting. Well, yeah, of course it's off-putting, but those are the stakes that they were faced with. And I feel like digitally removing the rifles to replace with walkie-talkies, cheapens it. But it also says that, kids can't handle this, which is an insult to kids, because kids can handle a lot, which is what ET's about. Kids have very complex emotions. Kids really end up, being the parent to the parent in a lot of ways, being the optimistic force in people's lives. And so I think it was a bit of a missed call on Spielberg's part to do that. In addition to all the other CG tomfoolery he did in that edition. But honestly, it's like really cheap on Amazon if you're morbidly curious to get that DVD edition. Go nuts. But
clips on YouTube.
Clips on YouTube. Actually, even better. I have a 4K edition of it, and they have all of the special features, like original on-set footage, and then they even include the that edition's hype trailer or hype package. So you see all of the scenes anyway. You see the guns, and then they do a quick wipe, and then they're all walkie-talkies all of a sudden. So really, if you buy a recent edition of ET, it's on there, and you don't have to look too far to see the absurd changes.
Well, so now I think it's time for us to do our wrap up. And the way we do that, as you know, you will pick your favorite from my list, and I will pick my favorite from your list. So I'm going to go first. And you had E.T., you had Godzilla and the other kaiju Tokakatsu, and you had... Wait, what was your first one? Oh, Gillman, which is Gillman. I'm going with Gillman. I have to. Yeah. I mean, they're all great. But yeah, I'm going to go with Gillman. I think especially because of the story that you told that has been uncovered more about the creation. So
Millicent Patrick. Props to her and all the work that she did on that iconic creature. Let's see. So
I had go ahead.
So I have Critters and Tremors.
Critters, Graboids, and Chud. Bud the Chud.
That's right. Okay. How could I forget? It's hard. I have an affinity for all of these. But I will go with Tremors. I think that is a creature feature that everyone can love, because there are some niche creature features, right? Tokusatsu at moments can be very niche. And Chud, we've talked about the mixed results of that one, but Tremors is just a solid, fun, good time. And I think, like, whether you're a seasoned monster lover or just getting into monster movies, is a great point for everyone to converge at, and
I feel like my mom can watch Tremors. In fact, she's probably seen it.
Oh yeah,
like my mom would enjoy Tremors. So
yes.
that I think is like the barometer of what you're saying. There's not a lot to dislike about Tremors.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't pull any punches, but it's also not mean or abrasive in any way. It's just
Right.
a very solid story with amazing effects and a really solid cast that's having a great time.
Yeah, every like I said before, every character, like you like every character in the movie. Like they're great as a group.
Yes, exactly. And I think that would be a great double feature. You have Creature from the Black Lagoon and Tremors. I mean, I'd buy that ticket.
Tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Midnite Dave on all social platforms. That's Midnite spelled Midnite.
The cool way.
The cool way, exactly. And midnitedave.com is where I have a lot of my links to my socials as well as my portfolio. Currently launched a series of mixtapes where I take parts of movies or whole movies and I mix them down to the length of a song. Just launched like 3 of them, working on a bunch more, so stay tuned for that. Also run the Midnite Romero Society. Midnite spelled the exact same way. Our website's currently down right now because we're migrating and doing a revamp. But that should be up in the next couple of months. So stay tuned for that as well. And yeah, catch me on Letterboxd as well, Midnite Dave. I'm very active on there, watching a lot of movies. And I just did a marathon of all the Jaws sequels. For better or for worse.
Also a good movie monster.
Also a great movie monster. Part of me wanted to talk about that just because it was fresh in my mind, but the sequels...
I actually thought when I saw you posting about Jaws yesterday, or I wondered.
Oh yeah, like doing like late homework because it was all last night. No, it's yeah, no, it's I mean, the story real quick was that me and my wife had just done our annual Jaws watch, and she was like, I never seen the sequels, and I'm like, oh, just wait. Some of them are fun, some of them are not, but in any case, I do fun stuff like that on Letterboxd, so give me a follow and reach out. I always like to talk movies with everybody, so.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for talking movies with me today.
My pleasure. Fascinating being on this side of the podcast. I am honored, and it's great to be given this seat across from you. So hopefully I filled Mr. Benjamin Margaret's shoes adequately.
Just, you're keeping his seat warm.
Until he returns with his tokens.
Exactly.
Or his amulet, rather. Well, I am not Benjamin Margaret Hackey for Zach Giolongo.
Well, and for that flubbed me up.
I'm sorry. Did you have more to say?
For Dave Universe, I am Zach Giolongo. And Dave, I think you can actually do the outro now.
Oh, yes. And then I'll cue the music and
yeah. I was gonna say I wasn't actually asking you to like. No, do it live.
Do it live.
Do it live.
Hey everyone, David Universe here, producer and audio engineer for Ben and Zach's Monster Market. On behalf of the team, thanks for listening. Music for this episode was created by Twinstrumental. If you'd like to see sketches of the creatures discussed on this episode, as well as other mystical goodness, please visit us at monstermarketpod.com, as well as Instagram and Facebook at Monster Market Pod. For creature recommendations, or just to say hello, please email us at monstermarketpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, beware, because they be monsters out there.